The Arabian Nights, or the 1001 Nights, second story. The Tale of the Ox and the Donkey. There was a prosperous and wealthy merchant who lived in the countryside and labored on a farm. He owned many camels and herds of cattle and employed many men, and he had a wife and many grown-up as well as little children. This merchant was taught the language of the beasts on condition that if he revealed his secret to anyone, he would die. Therefore, even though he knew the language of every kind of animal, he did not let anyone know for fear of death. One day, as he sat, with his wife beside him and his children playing before him, he glanced at an ox and a donkey he kept at the farmhouse, tied to adjacent troughs, and heard the ox say to the donkey, "Watchful one, I hope that you are enjoying the comfort and the service you are getting. Your ground is swept and watered, and they serve you, feed you sifted barley, and offer you clear, cool water to drink.
I, on the contrary, am taken out to plough in the middle of the night. They clamp on my neck something they call yoke and plough, push me all day under the whip to plough the field, and drive me beyond my endurance until my sides are lacerated and my neck is flayed. They work me from nighttime to nighttime, take me back in the dark, offer me beans soiled with mud and hay mixed with chaff, and let me spend the night lying in urine and dung.
Meanwhile, you rest on well-swept, watered and smoothed ground with a clean trough full of hay. You stand in comfort, save for the rare occasion when our master the merchant rides you to do a brief errand and returns. You are comfortable, while I am weary. You sleep, while I keep awake." When the ox finished, the donkey turned to him and said, "Greenhorn, they were right in calling you ox, for you ox harbour no deceit, malice, or meanness. Being sincere, you exert and exhaust yourself to comfort others. Have you not heard the saying, out of bad luck they hastened on the road? You go into the field from early morning to endure your torture at the plough to the point of exhaustion. When the ploughman takes you back and ties you to the trough, you go on butting and beating with your horns, kicking with your hooves and bellowing for the beans until they toss them to you. Then you begin to eat. Next time, when they bring them to you, don't eat or even touch them, but smell them, then draw back and lie down on the hay and straw. If you do this, life will be better and kinder to you, and you will find relief." As the ox listened, he was sure that the donkey had given him good advice. He thanked him and said, "May you stay safe from harm, watchful one." All of this conversation took place, my daughter, while the merchant listened and understood. On the following day, the ploughman came to the merchant's house and, taking the ox, placed the yoke upon his neck and worked him at the plough, but the ox lagged behind. The ploughman hit him, but following the donkey's advice, the ox, dissembling, fell on his belly, and the ploughman hit him again. Thus the ox kept getting up and falling until nightfall, when the ploughman took him home and tied him to the trough. But this time the ox did not bellow or kick the ground with his hooves. Instead, he withdrew away from the trough. Astonished, the ploughman brought him his beans and fodder, but the ox only smelled the fodder and pulled back and lay down at a distance with the hay and straw, complaining till the morning. When the ploughman arrived, he found the trough as he had left it, full of beans and fodder, and saw the ox lying on his back, hardly breathing, his belly puffed and his legs raised in the air. The ploughman felt sorry for him and said to himself, "By God, he did seem weak and unable to work." Then he went to the merchant and said, "Master, last night the ox refused to eat or touch his fodder." The merchant, who knew what was going on, said to the ploughman, "Go to the wily donkey, put him to the plough, and work him hard until he finishes the ox's task." The ploughman left, took the donkey, and placed the yoke upon his neck. Then he took him out to the field, and drove him with blows until he finished the ox's work, all the while driving him with blows and beating him until his sides were lacerated and his neck was flayed. At nightfall he took him home, barely able to drag his legs under his tired body and his drooping ears. Meanwhile, the ox spent his day resting. He ate all his food, drank his water, and lay quietly, chewing his cud in comfort. All day long he kept praising the donkey's advice and invoking God's blessing on him. When the donkey came back at night, the ox stood up to greet him, saying, "Good evening, watchful one. You have done me a favor beyond description, for I have been sitting in comfort. God bless you for my sake." Seething with anger, the donkey did not reply, but said to himself, "All this happened to me because of my miscalculation. I would be sitting pretty, but for my curiosity. If I don't find a way to return this ox to his former situation, I will perish." Then he went to his trough and lay down, while the ox continued to chew his cud.
"You, my daughter, will likewise perish because of your miscalculation. Desist, sit quietly, and don't expose yourself to peril. I advise you out of compassion for you." She replied, "Father, I must go to the king and you must give me to him." He said, "Don't do it." She insisted, "I must." But he replied, "If you don't desist, I will do to you what the merchant did to his wife." And she asked, "Father, what did the merchant do to his wife?" And he told the next story. The Arabian Nights, or the 1001 Nights, third story. The tale of the merchant and his wife.
After what had happened to the donkey and the ox, the merchant and his wife went out in the moonlight to the stable, and he heard the donkey ask the ox in his own language, "Listen, ox, what are you going to do tomorrow morning? And what will you do when the ploughman brings you your fodder?" The ox replied, "What shall I do but follow your advice and stick to it? If he brings me my fodder, I will pretend to be ill, lie down, and puff my belly." The donkey shook his head and said, "Don't do it. Do you know what I heard our master the merchant say to the ploughman?" The ox asked, "What?" The donkey replied, "He said that if the ox failed to get up and eat his fodder, he would call the butcher to slaughter him and skin him, and would distribute the meat for alms and use the skin for a mat. I am afraid for you, but good advice is a matter of faith. Therefore, if he brings you your fodder, eat it and look alert, lest they cut your throat and skin you." The ox farted and bellowed. The merchant got up and laughed loudly at the conversation between the donkey and the ox, and his wife asked him, "What are you laughing at? Are you making fun of me?" He said, "No." She said, "Tell me what made you laugh." He replied, "I cannot tell you. I'm afraid to disclose the secret conversation of the animals." She asked, "And what prevents you from telling me?" He answered, "The fear of death." His wife said, "You are lying. This is nothing but an excuse. I swear by God that if you don't tell me and explain the cause of your laughter, I will leave you. You must tell me." Then she went back to the house crying, and she continued to cry till the morning. The merchant said, "Damn it! Tell me why you are crying. Please stop questioning and leave me in peace." She said, "I insist and will not desist." Amazed at her, he replied, "And you insist? If I tell you what the donkey said to the ox, which made me laugh, I shall die." She said, "Yes, I insist, even if you have to die." He replied, "Then call your family." And she called their 2 daughters, her parents and relatives, and some neighbors. The merchant told them that he was about to die, and everyone, young and old, his children, the farmhands, and the servants, began to cry until the house became a place of mourning. Then he summoned legal witnesses, wrote a will, leaving his wife and children their due portions, freed his slave girls, and bid his family goodbye, while everybody, even the witnesses, wept. Then the wife's parents approached her and said, "Desist, for if your husband had not known for certain that he would die if he revealed his secret, he wouldn't have gone through all this." She replied, I will not change my mind." And everybody cried and prepared to mourn his death. Well, my dear daughter Shahrazad, it happened that the farmer kept 50 hens and a rooster at home, and while he felt sad to depart this world and leave his children and relatives behind, pondering and about to reveal and utter his secret, he overheard a dog of his say something in dog language to the rooster, who, beating and clapping his wings, had jumped on a hen and, finishing with her, jumped down and jumped on another. The merchant heard and understood what the dog said in his own language to the rooster. "Shameless, no good rooster, aren't you ashamed to do such a thing on a day like this?" The rooster asked, "What is special about this day?" The dog replied, "Don't you know that our master and friend is in mourning today?
His wife is demanding that he disclose his secret, and when he discloses it, he will surely die. He is in this predicament about to interpret to her the language of the animals, and all of us are mourning for him, while you clap your wings and get off one hen and jump on another. Aren't you ashamed?" The merchant heard the rooster reply, "You fool, you lunatic! Our master and friend claims to be wise, but he is foolish, for he has only one wife, yet he does not know how to manage her." The dog asked, "What should he do with her?"
The rooster replied, "He should take an oak branch, push her into a room, lock the door, and fall on her with the stick, beating her mercilessly until he breaks her arms and legs, and she cries out, 'I no longer want you to tell me or explain anything.' He should go on beating her until he cures her for life, and she will never oppose him in anything. If he does this, he will live, and live in peace, and there will be no more grief, but he does not know how to manage." Well, my daughter Shahrazad, when the merchant heard the conversation between the dog and the rooster, he jumped up and, taking an oak branch, pushed his wife into a room, got in with her, and locked the door. Then he began to beat her mercilessly on her chest and shoulders, and kept beating her until she cried for mercy, screaming, "No, no, I don't want to know anything. Leave me alone, I don't want to know anything." Until he got tired of hitting her and opened the door. The wife emerged penitent, the husband learned good management, and everybody was happy, and the mourning turned into a celebration. "If you don't relent, I shall do to you what the merchant did to his wife," she said. "Such tales don't deter me from my request. If you wish, I can tell you many such tales. In the end, if you don't take me to King Shahryar, I shall go to him by myself behind your back, and tell him that you have refused to give me to one like him, and that you have begrudged your master one like me." The vizier asked, "Must you really do this?" She replied, "Yes, I must." Tired and exhausted, the vizier went to King Shahryar and, kissing the ground before him, told him about his daughter, adding that he would give her to him that very night. The king was astonished and said to him, "Vizier, how is it that you have found it possible to give me your daughter, knowing that I will ask you to put her to death the next morning, and that if you refuse, I will have you put to death too?" He replied, "My king and lord, I have told her everything and explained all this to her, but she refuses and insists on being with you tonight." The king was delighted and said, "Go to her, prepare her, and bring her to me early in the evening." The vizier went down, repeated the king's message to his daughter, and said, "May God not deprive me of you." She was very happy, and after preparing herself and packing what she needed, went to her younger sister, Dinarzade, and said, "Sister, listen well to what I am telling you. When I go to the king, I will send for you, and when you come and see that the king has finished with me, you have to say this: 'Sister, if you are not sleepy, tell us a story.' Then I will begin to tell a story, and it will cause the king to stop his practice, save myself, and deliver the people." Dinarzade replied, "Very well, At nightfall, the vizier took Shahrazad and went with her to the great King Shahryar. But when Shahryar took her to bed and began to fondle her, she wept, and when he asked her, "Why are you crying?" she replied, "I have a sister, and I wish to bid her goodbye before daybreak." Then the king sent for the sister, who came and went to sleep under the bed. When the night wore on, she woke up and waited until the king had satisfied himself with her sister Shahrazad, and they were by now all fully awake. Then Dinarzade cleared her throat and said, "Sister, if you are not sleepy, tell us one of your lovely little tales to while away the night before I bid you goodbye at daybreak, for I don't know what will happen to you tomorrow." Shahrazad turned to King Shahryar and said, "May I have your permission to tell a story?" He replied, "Yes." And Shahrazad was very happy and said, "Listen,